Let's jump right into this explainer. Picture this, you're stepping deep into the ancient, untouched rainforests of Sri Lanka, a place so misty and dense that practically every stone and tree is hiding a story that hasn't been told yet. We are looking at a hidden, undisclosed world that science is truly only just beginning to understand. It's an absolute mystery, shrouded by the canopy, where entire species of giant unnamed creatures have been living for millennia, completely undetected by human eyes. Now, to give you an idea of just how wild and uncharted this region actually is, think about the number 40. In just the last 5 years alone, scientists working in these undisclosed locations have discovered an absolutely staggering 40 previously unknown species. We're talking about entirely new types of snakes, totally unrecorded scorpions, and perhaps most mysteriously of all, new species of giant tarantulas. Honestly, it is incredibly rare to find such a huge volume of significantly sized brand new creatures in such a short amount of time. So with discoveries happening this fast, you really got to ask yourself, what else is hiding out there? What other giants are just waiting to be found in the undergrowth? Well, the reality is, the clock is ticking. Many of these mysterious creatures are living in an unseen world that is at severe risk. They face the very real, terrifying threat of going completely extinct before they are ever even given a name, simply because their habitat is in constant danger of being destroyed by deforestation. To figure out exactly what is lurking in the dark, we're following the incredible work of top conservation biologist Dr. Ranil Nanayakkara. He's the founder of the NGO BEAR, which stands for Biodiversity Education and Research. Dr. Ranil has been tirelessly documenting Sri Lankan wildlife since 2009. And get this, he actually wrote the very first book ever on the spiders of Sri Lanka. But his mission is grueling. I mean, he spends agonizing hours trekking through some of the last remaining unexplored rainforests, fighting off swarms of mosquitoes, and wading literally knee-deep in leeches, all to find, document, and save these spiders. You know, in the scientific community, capturing a specimen often means, well, having to kill the animal for study. But Dr. Ranil takes a much more ethical approach. He relies heavily on what's called a death specimen. This basically means he prefers to keep the creatures alive, or he waits patiently for an animal to die naturally before studying it. It's absolutely crucial because it ensures that the research itself doesn't harm the incredibly delicate population numbers of these highly rare, newly discovered species. It's a very meticulous and patient way to do science. Okay, so how do you actually prove that a giant spider is brand new to science? You can't just snap a picture and call it a day. It requires a really rigorous 6-step journey. It starts out with perilous field exploration, followed by specimen collection. Next up is the morphological examination of physical traits, and then a global comparative analysis against other known spiders. After that, scientists do molecular analysis using DNA sequencing to prove its genetic uniqueness. And finally, the whole thing culminates in scientific publication. It is a massive undertaking from start to finish. What's absolutely fascinating to me is step 3, the morphological examination. Because telling these giant spiders apart literally comes down to microscopic differences. You'd think distinguishing one giant spider from another would be pretty obvious, right? Nope. Scientists have to use incredibly high-quality microscopes to examine minute, highly specific details. They're looking closely at things like the spider's reproductive organs, or even these tiny, stridulating organs on their legs that the spiders actually use to make sounds. These microscopic clues are totally essential to proving a species is truly unique. Once they've got all those tiny details mapped out, they hit step 4, the comparative analysis. And believe it or not, this is usually the most expensive step of the entire process. Why? Because you can't just look up pictures on the internet. Scientists actually have to physically travel to visit museums worldwide. They need to examine physical specimens of every single known species in that specific genus to compare their new find against historical records from all over the globe. They have to guarantee absolutely no one else has documented it before. But right here is where we hit a massive, honestly pretty devastating dilemma. As soon as a species is formally documented and published, there is a serious dark side. Poachers immediately use this newly public information to exploit the discovery. They hunt down these previously undisclosed locations, literally digging up tarantula burrows right out of the jungle floor to steal the spiders. Then, they funnel these rare creatures straight into the highly lucrative, illegal, exotic pet trade. So the very act of discovering them suddenly puts a massive target right on their backs. So how do you fight back against that? Well, to combat this serious threat, Dr. Ranil has to rely heavily on strict secrecy regarding the exact locations of these habitats. But secrecy alone just isn't enough. He takes it a major step further by actively training local villagers to become dedicated forest rangers. These locals become the frontline defense, fiercely protecting the spiders and their native jungle from outside poachers. It effectively transforms the local community into the ultimate guardians of their own hidden ancient ecosystems. But wait, the challenges don't just end in the jungle. There's also this insane financial barrier for scientists who are just trying to do the right thing. That final step, scientific publication, isn't free. Publishing these vital findings in highly prestigious academic journals like Nature, Science, or Zookeys comes with some incredibly hefty publication fees. We are talking anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 just to get the paper published. For independent researchers and local NGOs, that is a staggering amount of money to come up with. And this intense financial hurdle heavily impacts the documentation of some very specific groups of spiders, most notably the Poecilotheria genus. If you haven't seen them, these are spectacular, vibrant arboreal tarantulas that live high up in the trees. They are completely unique to these specific forests. But because the documentation process is just so unbelievably expensive, many species within this beautiful genus risk remaining totally undocumented and entirely unprotected. But hey, sometimes you get these incredible moments of collaboration that completely break down those barriers. In a truly unique effort to save a newly discovered species in this very genus, an unexpected source stepped in. Content creator Dhruv Rathi contributed the exact, substantial funds needed to cover those massive documentation and publication costs. This financial support essentially bypassed the biggest roadblock in the scientific process, allowing the crucial research on this specific giant tarantula to finally be finalized and published. Now, there's actually a super fascinating tradition in the scientific world when it comes to this stuff. Scientists cannot name a newly discovered species after themselves. However, they are totally allowed to name it after someone they wish to honor, like a major supporter of the research. So, because of this vital funding that made the documentation a reality, this newly documented, beautiful arboreal spider will officially be named Poecilotheria rathi. And honestly, this whole story brilliantly illustrates exactly why we spend thousands of dollars and go through a grueling 6-step process just to name a spider. A scientific name isn't just a fancy label. It is the ultimate tool for survival. Once an animal is officially named, it sparks research tourism, bringing global attention and value to the area. This sudden spotlight actually forces governments to step up and create protected national reserves. Ultimately, that scientific name provides the absolute legal protection required to save their entire habitat from being bulldozed over. So it all boils down to this one absolutely crucial point. Conservation depends on documentation. Without a formal scientific name, legally speaking, these mysterious, magnificent creatures simply do not exist. They have zero legal protection against the illegal pet trade or rampant deforestation. By going through the exhaustive process of finding, analyzing, and officially naming them, scientists are quite literally saving their homes. Documentation is the very foundation of conservation. As we wrap up this explainer, we kind of have to face a harsh reality. There are at least 40 newly discovered species out there right now, completely vulnerable simply because they lack a name. So I want to leave you with this vital question. How can we support missions like Dr. Ranil's to document and save these remaining 40 unknown species before the bulldozers and poachers reach them? Because if we don't act, this hidden world of jungle giants might vanish forever,